Recording in progress.
Good to go. Welcome to the City of Sunbury Planning and Zoning Commission on July 25th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. I'm Mayor Joe St. John. I'd like to start with a moment of silent prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mayor St. John.
Here.
Mr. Gokenhour.
Here.
Mrs. Cooper.
Here.
Mr. Lawrence. Here. Mr. Ryda is absent, and Mrs. Miller.
Here.
All right, good evening. I want to thank all of you for being here this evening. We do have a public hearing. It's a rezoning for Kintner Crossing presented by Randy Lobig. The applicant has requested to rezone a portion of parcel number 417-13-402-005007 from R2 low density residential. The applicant has, district and R4 multifamily residential district to PRD planned residence district. This proposed rezoning is for a total of 39.87 plus or minus acres that are located at the southern terminus of Kintner Parkway. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the process. We're going to have the applicant present. Immediately afterwards, we are going to have our city engineer present the city stance, and then we're going to open it up for public comment. We'd like to have everyone come up, state their name, their address, and try to limit it to 3 minutes if possible. And at the end, we'll give the applicant a chance to answer any questions or comments, and then we'll close the public hearing. With that said, I'd like to invite the applicant up. Who will be presenting? Mr. Gary Smith.
Real quick, Mr. Mayor, if you would, I would like to swear in anyone that might testify tonight.
Please.
Okay, thank you. So my name is Vic Whitney. I'm the attorney for the commission tonight. As the mayor indicated, this is a public hearing. It's being recorded. As he indicated, the applicant's going to present, and then following that presentation and the city engineer's presentation, the opportunity for anyone here to also speak to the commission would be given to you. Because it's a public hearing, we're asking that if you plan on providing testimony, which is what your speaking would be this evening, that you stand right now and raise your right hand, and I'm going to swear you in. If you stand and get sworn in, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to testify. If you decide not to, that's fine. But in order to testify, you need to swear in. So as the mayor said, at the appropriate time when you're called upon to come up and testify, if you would come up and speak loudly and clearly into the microphone, state your name, state your address, and because there's so many of you, if I could get you to acknowledge that you were sworn in at the beginning before you start speaking. So name, address, and that, yes, you were sworn in into the record. That way we have a clear record that happened. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, so anybody that may testify, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, to the best of your knowledge, information, and belief? So help you God. Thank you. Okay, thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the Planning Commission. Steve's going to pull up our presentation here, but I think a lot of you obviously remember this project. We were in front of you a couple of months ago for an informal, and we talked a lot about this site and some of the challenges and the possibilities with this site.
So, Mr. Lobig, I'm sorry, I may interrupt one more time for a procedural thing. We have exhibits, and I meant to say, that was one thing I forgot to say before you started testifying.
That's all right.
So if it's okay with you and on your approval, I've marked several documents here as exhibits. So the first being, which is marked as Exhibit A, is your application, as well as the 3-ring binder, multi-page binder that is divided into 8 subdivisions. So that'll be Exhibit A. Exhibit B, we have marked as a 5-page document that has front and back, that includes the public notice, as well as the proof of mailing and proof of service of mailing. Oh, I'm not following my own advice. Proof of mailing, as well as the public hearing notice that went up on the website as Exhibit B. And then Exhibit C is the 12-page memorandum that I believe you were provided a copy of from the city engineer, CT Consultants, that was delivered to the zoning commission.
Yes.
All right. My apologies. Go ahead and proceed.
And I should, just to correct the record, my name is not Randy.
Oh, I'm sorry.
My name is, well, I didn't state it like I should have at the beginning. My name is Gary Smith. I'm the owner of G2 Planning and Design. My address is 720 East Broad Street, Columbus, Ohio. I am here with Randy Wilbur in a purple shirt, and he's available to answer questions if you have any for the developer. And I'm also here with Justin Wallenberg, Terrain Evolution, who can also answer questions from an engineering standpoint regarding the plans that we have in front of you tonight. So we've got pretty much a full team here for you, just to answer any questions. We know we've got a lot of things to work through, so I really am. I appreciate the opportunity to kind of present this to you. We're going to kind of explore the issues tonight, and I think we're going to take that back and continue to refine this and move forward. But this is just a kind of an overview for everybody's benefit, because I know the board's kind of familiar with this. You've seen this. I'm pretty sure everybody in this room knows where this project is. It's currently owned by the Foremans, and it has a connection both to Donegan to the south, the entire property, and then frontage on what's currently 3637. And then the city, in their long-range plans, has a plan for Sunbury Parkway to essentially bisect the site. So coming through from the interchange, through, and then at the access point to Donegan, across Donegan, and then up through the site, and then eventually connecting with State Route 3637. And that's one of the challenges that we have. That's going to be a major road. It's going to carry, I don't know how many thousands of cars a day. Ultimately, that's going to be a direct route from Interstate 71 straight into Sunbury. So that's the site in itself, and that kind of from a locational standpoint. Now, we are only taking a smaller portion of that site. See if you want to move to the next slide. So if everybody recalls, so the piece that we're buying from the Foremans is a piece that's outlined in the thick black outline. So that is most of the frontage of future Sunbury Parkway, but it does not include some of the commercial along the front. Right now, the property as it stands is zoned, as you mentioned, R2, and then there is a section here which is zone R4 for multifamily apartments. Our concept is to abandon that existing zoning, the residential and the apartment zoning, and to do more of a planned development, PRD. If you want to roll to the next slide, that is more in line with the city's comprehensive plans. So what the comprehensive plan identifies is this opportunity to kind of transition densities from an intensity from what is going to be a major thoroughfare, Sunbury Parkway, down to kind of the existing residences along Cheshire Road. So the comprehensive plan identifies the area here in gray, that's hatched, identifies that for multifamily use at up to, I believe, 6 units an acre. And then below it, as a transition between that and the existing residents along Cheshire, is essentially a row of single family at a maximum of 3 units an acre. So what we've tried to do is work with that. And if you want to roll down to the next one, Steve. We are planning this in essentially 2 sub-areas. So we've reduced the size a little bit of the multifamily. We don't have it extending all the way across the frontage, but we're wrapping the single-family patio homes around and then the connection to Sunbury Parkway. And then this section here will be townhomes. I do want to mention, for the benefit of everybody here, these will be for sale townhomes. They will not be for rent. I know you had mentioned in your engineering report that you weren't sure if these were going to be platted lots or not. We haven't made that decision yet. We don't have a final buyer for the townhomes lined up. So they could be platted lots and sold fee simple, or they could be townhomes done as a condominium for sale. We're still working through that, trying to explore that. So we have the two sub areas. Sub area A is the townhomes, that's approximately 16.8 acres. And then sub area B, which is patio homes, which is approximately 23.05 acres. So if you want to roll down to the plan, you might have to zoom out a little bit. Sorry, Steve.
That's okay.
I think we have two different size documents in here, just to make life easy on you. So this is, most of you will recognize this. This is fairly similar to what we brought in front of you for our preliminary plan discussion. We have patio homes that are again here along this, and we extend Kinder Parkway through the site as is suggested by master plan, and make that connection back up in the future Sunbury Parkway. We have right now emergency access drive. And I know again, one of the other things that's mentioned in the staff report was maybe making that a permanent connection. I think we're open to having that discussion if that makes it easier from a traffic standpoint for the city to manage traffic. So one of the things that we talked about, and then we have the townhome section, which will be up here, which will be against future Sunbury Parkway. These will be townhomes on a private street. Ultimately, they could still be platted lots, or they could be done as condominiums, but they will be for sale. So one of the things that we talked about in our preliminary discussion was kind of the idea of the open space in the middle. One of the things that the commission really wanted to see was the open space be a little bit more accessible and usable. So we expanded that open space a little bit, and we created a gap here in the patio homes with a connection here, also where the mailboxes will go. And then we create an opportunity for pavilion, some community gardens, so people can have a garden plot if they want, or you know, we could do that as more of a kind of a like a perennial garden, just more for you know, viewing and enjoyment. People that want to go out there and sit at some benches, but have some garden space. All of that then connected through the site by a series of paths that connect up some of these areas. We've got another large open space here, the townhome center, with a little pavilion, and then these paths that go through and kind of connect. Oops. And then go through and connect around the site, connect back up to different areas of the site. So in that plan, we have a total of, I think, 112 townhomes and 85 single-family patio homes. And again, these patio homes are essentially geared towards empty nesters. So they're folks who are either retired or close to retirement. Their kids are out of the house. You know, they may be folks that want to travel more, so they don't necessarily want to mow a lawn. So these are all governed by an association that takes care of kind of all the maintenance, does all the mowing, and so it gives folks a lot more freedom. These are folks that aren't, again, looking for a large house. They're looking for a nice house that they can keep some of their equity, stay in the city of Sunbury, but have a little more freedom to travel, go hang out with their, you know, their kids and their grandkids, or, you know, to travel and be gone for a couple of months a year.
Can I pause for 1 second? I think we're actually at a capacity issue. Hey, Chief, can we make sure to grab names from folks who are trying to attend? Daryl, are you still out here? Can we try to grab names from folks who aren't able to attend due to capacity issues? I just want to make sure they get the information from this meeting. Somebody just headed outside. Thank you. Sorry, Gary.
Oh, that's okay. In addition, I know, and we've had some conversations with folks already here. There's a lot of interest in the existing stream that kind of runs behind the existing houses along Cheshire Road. We have left a buffer in between our development in the existing homes to contain that stream, and our intent is to not disturb that stream, not make any changes to it. So that stream will stay a buffer between those existing homes, and our intent is to preserve most, if not all, of those trees along that stream as an existing buffer. Steve, if you want to roll down. So this is just kind of a black and white version. You can see, I think, in this version a little bit better or a little bit easier, kind of the paths and the path networks. But we can move on to the next one, which is really kind of the open space diagram. That helps a little bit more. So again, these are the open spaces. The open spaces in the center is really kind of what we would consider the active open space for the development. So this will be for the use of the townhome residents and the single-family homes. And then, using that path to create some additional open space opportunities, maybe try to bring that basin in as a kind of a recreational amenity, potentially provide some benches over there so if folks want to sit, around that basin and just watch out over the water. Give people the ability to kind of walk through, connect back up with the sidewalk system, connect back up to the trails inside the open space. Next slide, Steve. So this is just a landscape plan. What we would envision from a landscape standpoint, we're allowing for, again, buffering along the existing Sunbury Parkway. Part of the issue that I think we're all having is we don't know exactly when Sunbury Parkway is going to be built. It could be 3 years from now, it could be 10 years from now, it could be 15 years from now. We don't really have a lot of guidance on when that's going to occur. So really, I think from our standpoint, is we're trying to plan for it and to kind of mitigate any future impacts from the installation of that. And so, I think we're open to having a conversation about that buffer. I know that West had one of the other things that you commented about. That's not an issue. This is just kind of a conceptual plan at this point, but we can take another look at that landscaping there. And then the rest, as you would expect, street trees throughout development, landscaping in the open spaces, a generous amount of landscaping in the open spaces, and buffers. Next one. So this is just a blow up of the open space. You can see kind of an example of the pavilion, that would be installed in that open space, approximately in this location. And then just a variety of different things going on there. A lot of opportunity for kind of open recreation area, 8-foot multi-use trail again that connects all of this together with the other open space, with the single family. And then just a combination of some mounding, different types of plantings, and different types of garden space. Again, potentially community gardens, where somebody can have a plot, grow some vegetables, grow some flowers if they wanted to, or that could be turned into a perennial garden. If that's kind of the direction that the residents want to go. Next one. So these are just some details. If you remember from the plan, this is right where Hittner Parkway comes into the site and then turns into the single family development. This is where we would have our entry feature here in this corner. So this is just an enlargement of the entry feature and the sign, what that would look like. And then these are columns that would be placed at kind of that entry, that private street to the townhomes. So that the townhome could have kind of a smaller sub-area sign out along, kind of identifying that entry. So this is really just kind of a colored version of it, showing an elevation of what a sign would look like as you come in from Kittner and transitioning into the site with the landscaping that would be there at the entry, and then that 4-rail fence that would come from that. And then these are just some samples from an architecture standpoint of what we would envision the quality of the architecture. So these are the patio homes. So as you can see, the patio homes are a mix of different types of siding, different colors, natural materials at the base, and a variety of different configurations. So these are all single family, these are all ranch homes, which is typical of patio homes. And I think the city's probably pretty familiar with that product at this point. Again, more examples. So again, these are the homes that will be kind of between the townhomes and the homes on Cheshire. And then this is an example of a couple different examples of potentially what the townhomes could look like. This is a pretty typical kind of townhome elevation. We're trying to, most of the townhomes are in that 4-unit configuration. I know Wes has comments on the maximum number of units. We only have a couple of 6-unit buildings in there. And so I think we're open to the idea of kind of putting a maximum number on, the total number of 6-unit buildings. 4 and 5-unit buildings, I think probably lay out in this site pretty well. And then just some floor plans. These are all kind of already shown in the examples that you have in your packet. So with that, I think that's a pretty general overview. I don't want to waste too much time. I know we've got a lot of people here that have a lot of questions that want to talk. So I think I'm ready to kind of relinquish the microphone. Anybody that has, we have engineering drawings in here. If there's any engineering questions or concerns, Justin can answer those. Again, if there's any questions from the developer, Randy can answer those as well. So thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Gary. And I think we're going to go to the city engineer, Mr. Westall's prepared a report. Steve, do you plan on sharing that? Is there anything, or do you want Wes to read from the report?
In the email on Friday, Steve. Oh, yeah, I'm hoping to find it in the OneDrive. Just
Maybe we can go ahead and start if Steve's able to pull it up. That'd be great.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just start off on page 1 of the report with some general context to kind of recite a few things. This property is approximately 40 acres, currently zoned R2 low density residential and R4, which is a multi-family zoning. The majority is R2. What's proposed is 112 townhomes, 85 small lots, single family detached dwellings, which is referred to as a patio home. Site location, I think everybody knows, so I won't go over that. Existing conditions, currently vacant, used for agriculture. Just moving to page 2 of the report, surrounding land use and zoning. On the north side is vacant where future Sunbury Parkway right-of-way is proposed, and that's currently zoned R2. On the south side is the existing single-family detached dwellings fronting Cheshire Road, currently zoned R2. East side is office with some vacant parcels fronting Cherry Street, currently zoned R2, and it's a commercial district. On the west side are single-family detached homes fronting on Domigan Road. So that's the surrounding land use and zoning. Just making a note that we do have a comprehensive plan which does address this site. Currently, that comprehensive plan just shows a single family area at 3 dwellings, 3 dwelling units per net developable acre. The focus on net there, and I'll explain that here in a minute. And also a section of multifamily, which would front the Sunbury Parkway, which in the comp plan is noted at 6 dwelling units per acre. Just moving to page 3, and this is where our review comments start. First item, proposed zoning. As has been stated, this is proposed to be a planned residential development. Planned residential district is the zoning that's proposed. This is actually addressed in the comprehensive plan for sub-area 7 and also the zoning code. Density. Currently, the comp plan has a few considerations. What the comp plan says for single-family detached housing is 3 dwelling units per net area. What's been proposed is a gross area, so the calculation would have to be redone to a net area. All net means is you take out the areas of the development that can't be developed, like roadways, detention basins, and so on, slopes. So then you take that area divided by the number of units to get a net density. So that calculation needs to occur. The comp plan also discusses the multifamily area, which is noted at 6 dwelling units per gross acre. So just a couple notes that to refer the commission to the comprehensive plan. As far as the zoning ordinance consideration, planned residential district is identified in our zoning code. Code does limit it to 2.5 dwelling units per acre, but there are conditions. There are basically 4 conditions, and if each condition is met, it would add a density of 1 unit per acre. Those 4 conditions, I will read them. Condition 1, if the property is directly adjacent to and easily accessible to a major thoroughfare, which in this case it will be, which will be Sunbury Parkway. Condition 2 is if the property is directly adjacent and easily accessible to public controlled, maintained community recreational facilities or service facilities. We do not believe that condition is met. Condition 3 is if the property is developed in a high quality of building design and site design. We do have questions on that, so at this time, we do not feel that condition is met. Fourth condition is if the property is developed to include major community services such as churches and schools, and currently this development does not have, so that 4th condition is not met. For these reasons, the requested density may not be warranted. Item 3 on page 4 of the report just talks about uses. One note. The applicant did request a maximum of 2 model homes, which would be a conditional use in the PRD district. Just some detailed notes on that. As that would move forward, we'd have to get a conditional use permit, and the associated parking lots with the model home would have to be removed and so on. So just a little bit of detail there on the model homes for the 3rd comment. 4th comment, top of page 5. Just going to go through the development standards for single family patio homes and what they proposed and what the code says. First item is lot size. Applicants proposing lots of 52 by 130, which is a common size lot for a patio home. No comment there. That's acceptable. Front setback, what's proposed is 20 feet. Code is 40 feet. We are recommending that 25 feet would be an acceptable minimum setback. And that's occurred on a couple other developments within the city currently. Side yard setback and encroachments. The applicant is proposing a side yard setback of 5 feet. For a total of 10 feet between two units. And again, I'm talking about the single family patio homes. A code right now is a side yard setback of 7 feet with a total of 14. Again, this is a common divergence of the code for these types of units, which has already occurred within Sunbury and other surrounding villages and cities as well. So 5 foot with a 10-foot total is a acceptable divergence. Just a note on that divergence, the applicant did note that things like cantilever condensing units, window wells, eaves, overhangs, etc., may extend up to 2 feet into that side yard. Example would be the patio homes that Pulte built on Common Bent. If you look down there, there's about 10 feet in between those units, and some do have the condensing units within that 10 feet. So that's just a common occurrence. Rear yard setback, the PRD code says 40 feet. Applicant is requesting 25 feet. Applicant also proposes to allow decks and patios to encroach into the 25 feet up to 10 feet and a minimum of 15 feet from the rear lot line. These are appropriate since these are accessory structures. One comment we do have is the applicant also asked for 3-season rooms to encroach into the rear setback. This request is not appropriate in our opinion. The 3-season rooms are roofed and typically becomes part of the principal dwelling. So that's not something that we would recommend encroaching into that rear setback. Also, there needs to be clarity if sheds, gazebos, etc., are permitted on the platted lots. That language needs to be added, and we did request a copy of the deed restrictions as part of the next review. Item E, page 6, lot coverage. The PRD code does not speak to total lot coverage. It speaks to lot coverage by building. The application indicated a maximum lot coverage of 50%. The code actually says up to 30% for buildings, but is silent on other things like sidewalks, driveways, patios, et cetera. So the application needs to be amended to address the building coverage so we can compare that to the code to see if a divergence is required there. Moving on to part or comment number 5 on page 6, development standards for the townhomes. Front setback, applicant is requesting 20 feet. We would recommend a minimum of 25 feet. This is, so this will basically be a private street. So in that condition, from the front of your garage to the edge of the pavement and not a right of way in this condition, you would only have 20 feet. Full-size truck or Suburban is a little over 19, so it doesn't leave a lot of room for, so we're going to recommend 25-foot setback on the private street condition. Minimum building separations, applicant has proposed, and these again are for the townhomes. Building end to end, 25 feet, building end to rear, 25 feet, building rear to building rear, 40 feet. We do need to, there is a comment from the fire chief, and we need to clarify that with the fire chief. And at this time, those distances are common, but we need to clarify a couple items there with the fire chief. Item C, minimum perimeter setbacks for buildings and parking. Those appear to be appropriate with our comment here, so we just reading that for a sec, excuse me. A lot of detail in the report, so yeah, we do ask the proposed perimeter setbacks for the buildings and parkings are appropriate, except for the perimeter setback for the western boundary is not provided, so we would want to see that information. Item 5D, top of page 7, encroachments. That just speaks to if decks and patios will only be permitted. It's not clear in the application. Our comment is any permitted proposed encroachments into the building separation requirements or perimeter setbacks should be provided by the applicant, so we will need that information. Lot coverage, applicant notes that no more than 40% of subarea A may be covered by the footprint of townhome buildings. The applicant needs to submit total lot coverage, including driveways, private streets, sidewalks, and other impervious areas. Other development standards, the proposed minimum floor area and maximum heights of the principal and accessory buildings are appropriate for a planned residential district. Moving on to item 6, traffic and thoroughfare comments here. Comment A is a traffic impact study needs to be submitted to determine any offsite improvements. And just a couple notes on the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan does show a backage road on the eastern boundary of the site adjoining the commercial parcels. This needs to be addressed. We also need to take into consideration Sunbury Parkway and access to Sunbury Parkway, but we can't landlock those commercial parcels. So access to those commercial parcels that front along 36, that's going to have to be worked out. Future roadway where emergency access drive is presently shown on the development plan is noted in the comp plan. As noted above, this connection is necessary to provide a connection from the proposed development to Cheshire Road. We are recommending that the emergency access become a public road with a sidewalk and our multimodal path. Comment number 7, open space. The code requires 20% of the project area excluding streets to be open space. The application needs to be amended to properly calculate this. The open space calculation is basically your open streets, your open space minus your street area, minus your stormwater facilities. It's basically you want to figure out your usable open space. And then that has to be at a 20% level of the development. So that needs to be amended. Just noting things like that strip behind the patio homes that would front the homes on Cheshire Road, those types of things are what would be considered an unusable open space and wouldn't be able to be included in the calculation. Moving on to item 8, natural environment, proposed trails. Just noting the southern tree line of the current site, the applicant would need to submit a tree survey to comply with our code. We would take a look at it from there. Item 8B just notes the landscape treatment along future Sunbury Parkway. This is just a pretty critical note. I won't read this paragraph. You know, this is gonna, the rear of these townhomes are gonna back up to Sunbury Parkway. So that's gonna really define the character as you enter the city. So we're asking for a pretty robust landscape buffer there. I'll get into the architectural of the rear of those units here in a minute, but this just speaks to that entrance and the rear of the townhomes or the north edge of this development that has to be properly landscaped. So it gives it a good look coming into the village. Item C, landscaping and signage. The proposed landscaping in general is well designed. The street trees will enhance the neighborhood. Page 9, item D, existing wetlands. There is a wetland on the western portion of the site in sub-area B that basically runs parallel with Cheshire Road. The applicant just must comply with all Army Corps of Engineer requirements and Ohio EPA requirements. That should be Army Corps of Engineers, not engineering. Multi-use trails. The development does include an 8-foot multi-use trail through the central open space. We would just want to make sure that trail is in compliance with subsection 811625. And there is one short 4-foot wood chip trail that is adjacent to the proposed garden area. Item 9, a few comments on architectural design. In general, we would ask the applicant to provide side and rear elevations for both the townhomes and the small lot single family detached dwellings or the patio homes. That information was not provided. Townhomes, the item B number 1 just speaks to the number of attached units for the townhomes, and we would recommend that be a maximum limit the number. The applicant proposes to limit the number of attached units to a maximum of 6. More than 6 attached units creates too much building width and mass. So we're recommending no more than 5 attached units, but to give the applicant some flexibility, we would refine the maximum of 5 units to up to 4 instances of 6 units. So again, that's a little confusing, but we're concerned about too many 6-unit buildings, and we'll work with the applicant there to reduce the number to the 4 or 5 range where applicable. Front elevation of the townhomes, again, which is on the private street, and probably it'd be nice to go to that exhibit there so you could see what those look like again. But that was basically where there's a double garage in front of each townhome on the lower level. From an architectural standpoint, That front elevation of each townhouse is going to be dominated by a garage door. In fact, approximately 2/3 of the front facade will be a garage door. The frontage of private road C will seem to consist of nothing but garages. So the garage door is a concern there. We want to see a little bit different architecture or some different options. We talk about at the end of this paragraph the possibility of having garages access from the rear of the townhomes, or to have shorter private street blocks where garage fronted townhomes will not seem to overwhelm the private street. So we're going to have to look at that with the applicant and think about some alternatives there as far as the front elevation of these units. Item 3, the rear elevation. Again, it wasn't provided, and just to note that the rear of these units will face the future Sunbury Parkway, and that elevation needs to be properly addressed with appropriate architecture and building materials. Item 4, materials and colors. The exterior appearance materials and colors are listed in the submittal and seem appropriate for townhomes. We would suggest limiting the number for vinyl siding on the front facades to improve the appearance of the facades over time. And you don't want to have too many colors there, which will fade. So, single family detached dwellings, the patio homes, just a couple notes on materials and colors. Again, to limit the number of materials there for the patio homes. And fencing, wood or vinyl fencing are listed as permissible fence materials on the rezoning. We recommend adding aluminum fencing as a permitted fencing material. And again, the submittal material should specifically state that fencing is only permitted in the rear yard. And there's some other concerns, is that around the patio or the rear line? We need to work with the applicant on what the fencing exactly is for the patio homes, excuse me, not the townhomes. Item 10 is the phasing plan. So we're just requesting a phasing plan here to understand how the development would be phased. And I'll move to item 11, miscellaneous considerations. We are asking for a list of the total lot coverage for the entire site on the development plan. Item B, the zoning ordinance does not define townhomes or patio homes. Please provide a definition in the submittal documents for future reference. Item C, given the limited parking on both townhomes and patio home lots and the limited street parking on Kintner Parkway, we suggest that the visitor parking be provided in both sub areas. Utilities, in the back of the submittal packet were all the utility letters. Delco Water was fine. Consolidated was fine on power and other utilities. I did note that the existing sanitary sewage system, being the pump station, force mains, and sewer, currently does not have capacity, and improvements are required. And we have worked with the applicant on options there for that. Item E, I wanted to note that a TIF or inclusion in the current NCA should be discussed to support off-site infrastructure needs. Item F, we're requesting a draft version of the HOA deed restrictions to be provided, so we have a clear understanding of restrictions and maintenance responsibilities. Item 12 is a good summary of the divergences requested, so I'll go through those, and that will essentially end the report. So first, divergence intensity of use. Again, the applicant's requesting a gross density of 4.9 dwelling units per acre. The permitted PRD density is 2.5. As discussed previously, the application does not warrant the requested density at this time. Front setback for small single-family detached dwellings requested is 20 feet. We are recommending 25 feet. Side yard setback for small lot single-family detached dwellings. The requested minimum setback of 5 feet with a total of 10 is appropriate for small lot, single-family dwellings. So we would recommend approval of that divergence. Rear yard setback for small lot, single-family detached dwellings, the requested minimum rear yard setback of 25 feet is suitable for single-family lots. And then just noting the discussion in section 4D, which we talked about the 3-season rooms and other structures there within that setback not being acceptable. Maximum lot coverage, the applicant requests an allowable lot coverage of 50% for patio home lots. The materials are unclear as to whether this request is for total lot coverage or lot coverage by building, which is regulated by the PRD. So again, we'll need that clarified in the resubmittal. Structure separation, item F, the request is a change from 25 feet to 14 feet without installing masonry walls or firewalls. As the applicant states, the Ohio Residential Building Code permits a 10-foot separation in sidewalls. We would recommend permitting the requested divergence and allowing the building code to govern. It's a lot of information, but I wanted to go through that in detail for the record. That's all I have. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Hall. Vic, did we need to enter that in as an exhibit or have we done that?
I already did that right at the outset. Thank you.
All right, sounds good. All right, we're on to the public comment portion of the meeting. And if you're sworn in, we would like to speak. Steve, I'd like for you to come up with a process on how we choose who goes first. And also if you can run the timer for us.
Okay. First, I want to make sure I've got both cameras working.
And again, just as a reminder, please state your name clearly, your address, and then if you could confirm for me that you were sworn in. That way we have record that occurred.
Wait, don't be offended if you're talking to the commission or recommending something and we aren't responding. This is your time to give us feedback. If we elect to, after we close the public hearing, we'll respond. We'll also allow the applicant to respond to comments and questions as part of the public hearing. Thank you.
Why don't we start in the back and go to the front?
Sure.
Is there anyone in the back row standing that would like to provide comments? Yes, ma'am. Please come to the dais. Were you sworn in, ma'am?
Yes, I was sworn in
Okay.
at the beginning of the meeting. Thank you for having me. My name is Adrienne Moyer, Adrienne. My address is 166 Avena Court, in the communities of Sunbury. So I just wanted to come today and address my feelings and probably some of my neighbors' feelings about this proposed development with obviously the high density, we're going to hear tonight, the impact on our schools, the traffic there. Obviously we know Sunbury is growing. That's why I moved up here. So I'm not against a growing community. I just don't think this is the best thing for our community right now. And as a mother of 3 in Big Walnut School District, I think we're going through so much change right now. We're coming out of COVID. We still have staffing shortages. We still have transportation shortages that this could really negatively impact all the growth we want to see in our schools. The one question I do have is I am curious what the median home cost is projected for these single family homes and for the townhouses. I don't know if we can get an answer for that, but that's a question I have. I also am curious when we do say these single family homes would be geared towards retirees. Obviously in the Pulte neighborhood, they market certain homes 255 plus. So I am curious, is that their marketing plan that they're going to market specifically to an older demographic that we know may not have kids in the school district? Or are we just saying that and we're just going to see what happens because of whatever? So I am curious about how we're marketing this and to whom and what those costs are. So those are my comments.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else in the back row? Right, go one row up and seated in the back row. Anyone? Come on up.
I was sworn in. I get my breath here. My name is Lois Carver. I live at 716 Cheshire Road, and I have been there since 1986. My biggest issue right at this moment is it's already difficult to get out of Cheshire Road onto 36. At certain times, it's almost impossible. And you have to go around the back way to get to the grocery store or anything like that. I'm also concerned about the number of homes that are going in there. I don't see why we need that many. We just had, I don't know how many hundreds of new homes put in just recently. And it was already zoned for a lower residency, and I don't see why that has to change. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else in the back row?
I was sworn in. My name is Wendy Jansen. I live at 100 High Street. I just wanted to quickly state I am not for this type of development. I think we've pushed the limits, and, you know, as far as responsible development goes, there's a limit to how many people can be pushed into an area in a certain period of time. And I think we're exceeding it, or we're going to exceed it. And the concerns with the school district, and, you know, there's endless concerns. So I just wanted to state that I'm not for this type of development in this area at this time. A more responsible, less density type of situation would be much more welcome. We already don't have green space. We don't have a park. So I don't know what we're offering these people besides a courtyard. So I would like to see more parks and things like that before we bring in more people. I think that would be important for keeping kids busy, out of trouble, all that kind of stuff. Community center, we need some amenities first, I think. And without knowing when Sunbury Parkway is actually going to be constructed, we don't know how long this, you know, these people are going to be trying to get in and out there without an adequate exit or entrance, or, yeah. So anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the back row? All right, we'll move. I think it's now we're in the third row, maybe.
Next to back row. There you go. Okay.
Hi, Jeff Owens, 724 Cheshire. Been here since 1986. We've got a year of homes. And one of the issues is the high density. Now, I'm not in favor of high density housing back there at all. And the other thing is the water runoff and the ditch that runs back through there. Now, over the years, that ditch just continues to gather more junk, trash, whatever it may be. We keep it cleaned out, a lot of us do. More houses, more trash. I'm not in favor of that at all. So if you're going to do something, you got to do something with the ditch. That's not acceptable. And I'd like to know base price of what these homes are going to cost. And also what the square footage of these homes are going to be, both the townhomes and the smaller ones. So that's all I got.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I think I missed the swearing in at the beginning.
Okay, swear you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak that was not sworn in?
Anyone else? Okay. Raise your right hand. It looks like your left hand's a little occupied right now, so. Right. Okay. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to the best of your knowledge, information, and belief? So help you God. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Margaret Maurer, Maurer. I live at 728 Cheshire Road, and my home backs right up to everything here. My family and I, we moved up from the city of Columbus to Sunbury specifically. We looked for a year before buying a home, trying to find a place to spend the rest of our lives raising our family. And we found the perfect home on Cheshire, and then we heard about this. And so my questions for just the city of Sunbury, what are our goals for continued expansion? We moved to Sunbury from the city for a small town feel for our family, for low density housing, for the safety and happiness for our family. But we feel as though that is quickly evaporating as more and more of these developments are being built. Why are we not categorizing more land as green space? If we don't, Sunbury will just become the next Pataskala, an ugly development town with no soul. So, thank you.
I believe we're still in the third row.
I was sworn in. But you need my glasses, I'm sorry. My name is Susan Stanton. I live at 240 Domigan Road in Sunbury. I really did this as an address to the zoning committee members. You have an immensely important position within the city of Sunbury. It is to uphold the standard of the zoning code that is used to ensure that the city remains a lovely and welcoming place in which to live. It is also to ensure that the developers uphold the standards set by zoning code to ensure a safe, healthy, and enjoyable place to live. We're looking for responsible growth. I think all of us here are. The proposal before you is asking you to compromise on several of the key critical standards designed to keep Sunbury a growing and thriving city. There are 6 variances requested, and darn, I wish I had your report, because I detailed, Mr. Hall, I detailed the same ones in looking at it. I came up with 6.6 dwelling units per acre on 29.87. Townhomes appear to be 3 bedrooms. It's going to add significant to our school systems. The patio lots are really weird. It's a very small postage lot. With setbacks of 20 feet, you're saying 25 is okay, but the road is only 50 feet. And so it should be a 50-foot road, right-of-way road, setback from the edge of the road should be 50 feet or 75 feet from the center. That's a big difference going from 50 to 25. Requesting a side yard setback of 10, rear setbacks, all of that. Some of my main concerns are the non-permeable area. They're talking about a house, a lot, I believe, being a 50% non-permeable surface. I think that's the roof, the patio. That doesn't account for the sidewalks, the roadways, any of the common areas that would be paved. I live to the west of that area. We've had 4.5 inches of rain within 48 hours twice this month. The flooding was immense. It was not pretty. Where's the water going to go if we put in that much more impervious surface? It's very difficult to grasp how that variance will be granted. The separation of 10 feet between the patio homes, current code is 25 feet. I brought this because I think it's important to see what 6 feet is. I didn't do that. Sorry. That's what could be the space between these patio homes with 2 feet added on from each of the existing fireplaces or whatever it is that the outside wall. That's not much space. There's 2 kids running through. That's not much space. There is a comprehensive zoning code within the city of Sunbury. It was developed to keep our city within standards and keep it safe, livable, and lovable, and very lovely as well. Please follow the zoning code in place. Our infrastructure of fire, emergency, police, and schools cannot handle this level of increased dense development. I have a couple of questions. I'm hoping that the engineer's report will be available, perhaps on the website. And will this, with all the public participation, the suggestions that they rewrite certain things, will this, and many people not being able to get in, will this be continued in a future zoning meeting when a new proposal is brought forward? And there's one other thing. What I'd like to know is the difference between how it's currently zoned and the size of R4 and R2 in the current zoning. How many houses would that support? How many homes would that permit to be present if it was followed under current zoning versus the 197 that are proposed on less than 30 acres? Thank you.
Thank you.
You have a difficult decision.
Thank you. All right, I believe we're still in the third row. Anyone else? Anybody in the second row? Come on.
My name is Karen Kress. That's Kress with a K. I have been sworn in. I live at 788 Cheshire Road. I do have a number of questions. Some of them have already been asked. Some of the things I heard tonight that I have questions about is there was going to be a connection from the development to Big Walnut Middle School. And I was wondering where that connection is going to occur. Is it going to cross Cheshire Road coming up through the existing homes, or how is that going to be routed? I also heard that there will be a future roadway that's going to connect to Cheshire Road. I also wondered how that is going to look. If I didn't quite follow everything on the map up there, so I wasn't sure if that is going to, I'm not really aware of any empty land where that road could come out. So I was wondering where that is going to be. Traffic control is mentioned. Yes, Cheshire Road getting out to 36, 37 or on either end from Domigan or from Cheshire Road can be pretty treacherous at times. It's very, very heavy at times, and we definitely would need new signals, something to make that better. As far as the watershed goes, it was referred to as a stream. It is a farm ditch. It has always been a farm ditch. It has not been maintained over the last 10 years at all. It is overgrown with cattails, with trees, with bushes. Who knows what other things have been thrown in there. We've seen raccoons coming out of there. We see a coyote come out. We've seen rats for quite a few years. Tons of mosquitoes. It is a farm ditch. It's a mess. Behind my home, when I lived there the first time, I've lived in that home twice. When I lived there the first time, you could walk across the ditch. It was dry unless there was a rain, and then it might get 2 feet wide. It gets about 40 feet wide behind my home right now. It comes all the way up. I'm on a hill, thank goodness, but I have a sump pump that comes out, and the water completely covers my sump output every time we have a bad rain, and I just lay in bed praying that the backflow device doesn't fail. So I'm very aware that there is going to be development in that field behind me, and that's just how things are. But we definitely need to do something about taking control of that ditch, because there's going to be a lot more concrete, there's going to be a lot more pavement, there's going to be a lot more runoff coming from all of these homes. So that definitely needs to be in the developer's plan, at least for his share of it. There's a lot of things that dump into that ditch, like America Showa and who knows who else, because over the years, more and more keeps getting dumped into it. There's tiles, farm tiles everywhere, and it just keeps dumping into that ditch. So that definitely needs to be addressed with any development going forward. I also was a little confused about the ingress egress off of 3637 and off of Cheshire from that from this new subdivision. So I wondered about that. And the last thing I have is I am definitely opposed to making this a high density residential area. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. I believe we're still in the second row, right over here.
I've been sworn here. My name is Ellen Milligan. I live at 736 Cheshire Road. We are a fledgling city. We're not a big city. We just became a city. We don't have the infrastructure or resources to support more high density residences. We don't. The infrastructure of Sunbury would be stressed to the max if this zoning proposal is accepted like it is. The fire department, police, EMS systems, the school system. The school system is already stressed for space and money, and we just built a new high school and a middle school a few years ago to try to handle the increases of all of the people that are coming to our wonderful little place. I mean, we love it here. The storm drainage systems, a few years ago, a Sunbury pump was overwhelmed, and many of us got sewer water backed up in our basements, causing potential health hazards. To add more stress to this system would be dangerous. The Kroger store can't keep the shelves stocked for the people who already live here. More residents on top of each other would put more strain on that. The traffic increases of over another 200 residences with 400 more vehicles would be another worry. We have 2-lane roads, and most times we have to wait for a safe opening to get out of our own driveways. I know Sunbury Parkway is planned in the future, but that was not lessen the burden to Sunbury residents now. The development to properties is inevitable. We all know that. But we should have some voice in what is planned and have our concerns to be heard. The existing density and zoning for this parcel is 2.50 residents per acre. For the safety of the people of Sunbury, please keep the density as it is. We want Sunbury to grow, but in a way that it's not a burden or worry for the residents for failed or taxed infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Trey Musgrove. I live at 9725 Cheshire Road. My wife and I, Linda, have been there for 2 years. We escaped the insanity of Franklin County.
Excuse me, Mr. Musgrove, were you sworn in?
I was sworn in.
Thank you.
anyhow, we live about 100 yards downstream from where this development will end. And we currently have a flooding problem in our backyard. I guess maybe we're the lowest spot of the floodplain. I'm not too concerned about the volume of water that we're getting right now. I don't know about maybe a 10-year flood on how that might affect it. But I do have a walkout basement. We are on the side of the hill. I am concerned that the additional water coming off from this development is going to create some bigger issues than I have currently. So I'd like to request that the development, who's ever doing it, either real estate or whatever, make improvements to the creek from their development down to Dominic Road, widening it, deepening it, cleaning it, whatever needs to be done, because I think we're all kind of echoing the same thing about the water issue. So I think that does need to be addressed, and that's why.
Thank you, Mr. Musgrove.
I need this one.
You need to be? Okay,
Sorry.
no problem. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, to the best of your knowledge, information, and belief, so help you God?
My name is Mark Brown. I live at 732 Cheshire Road. A number of people have brought up infrastructure, and whenever Sunbury Parkway comes about, I'm envisioning, I look out my back window at rush hour in the evening, and the traffic backs up from, I think, 36, 37, and 3, all the way back beyond Subway and back even further. It's just like unbelievable, unbelievable. And what I'm envisioning is we do not stick with our zoning. And there is a reason for our zoning, the way it is. It's been proposed, and now it's being asked to be amended. But we have it there for a reason. For some reason, I think our community had a meeting not too long ago, some years ago, but that zoning was determined, and for a reason. What I'm envisioning from an infrastructure standpoint is once Sunbury Parkway is built, this is what I'm envisioning. I'm not a traffic engineer, but I'm envisioning, and I was kind of confused by the diagram, how Sunbury Parkway would come in and look like it came in at like a curve, maybe it's an exit into Sunbury. But what I'm envisioning is at Sunbury Parkway, with this growth, traffic's going to back up from where this comes in, Sunbury Parkway, and it's going to back up to Dominican Road, Turner's Corners on 36, 37. And on Sunbury Parkway, I'm envisioning, I could be wrong, but with the growth and lack of infrastructure, that from Sunbury Parkway, 36, 37% back to Dominican Road. And we're just going to have two, because it's already not built for it, and we're going to put in a higher density zoning request. And when that comes about, when Sunbury Parkway comes about, I think we're just going to have two just huge traffic jams from west, over I-71, and to Dominican Road. And they're just going to come in, and it's going to be a bottleneck. That's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the second row?
I have been sworn in. Good evening. My name is Rena Carver. I live at 108 High Street, and I have lived in Sunbury basically my whole life, give or take a year here, a year there. I agree with much of what was said tonight. I want to go on record opposing high density development at this time in Sunbury. I agree with the infrastructure growth that is needed and expanded before more residential plans push through. I agree with the average cost information and square footage information being helpful to current residents. traffic impact study would be very good information to have and be aware of for us. Again, we understand it's developing, even for us oldies that have been here for a long time, when it was a tiny little town. We understand it. We love our town, and that's why everybody's here tonight, because we love the town and we want to see it grow. But again, we want responsible growth. I would like to bring up, regardless of what plan goes through, I think it would be hugely important to all the residents of Cheshire, current and future, that a landscape buffer along that backside of Cheshire Road go up, regardless if it's single family homes. I didn't see any plan for that, and I thought that would be something I'd like to bring up to your attention. Sorry, I took a lot of notes. I did hear a few comments that I wanted to just mention. Major community services was defined as churches or schools, and I wondered if there would be any reason that something other than churches or schools could be added to that list. I don't know how that all works. I just thought I would bring it up. Community center was mentioned. I think that's a big one on everyone's list, has been for a long time here in Sunbury. Maybe something along those lines, maybe not to that degree. I also heard that several times that things were approved or approved in the package as because they were common occurrences. And a common occurrence doesn't really mean desirable or optimal. I would ask people to strive for better than it's already common. Yeah. Traffic impact study, again, that was my other note. The wetlands disturbance plan would also be valuable information. That's what I have as far as my notes go. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
You.
My name is John R. Faber. I have been sworn. I live at 727 Cheshire Road. A bunch of my comments were addressed in Wes's engineering report, the biggest one being 12A. Could you read that again?
John, 12A stated intensity of use. Under our summary of divergences, stated the applicant is requesting the gross density of 4.9 dwelling units per acre, and the permitted PRD density is 2.5. As discussed in this section on density above, the application does not warrant the requested density, and we recommend decreasing the density as recommended by the comprehensive plan.
Right, for all those that don't understand all that baloney, it basically is saying the village, the city is not recommending going ahead with changing the density. I don't know whether any of you caught that. That's very good. I've been involved with Sunbury since '80 when I moved here. The ditch that runs behind these poor people's homes has been fought over for years. The biggest problem is the outfall of the ditch is on county-owned, county residents' property, and unless they're willing to grant easements across their property for the city to fix the upstream, we're where we're at, and it's a trash hole. It's been that way since Harold Kent was mayor. It's a ditch, and it just rots. And for this development to come in and say, oh, we aren't going to do anything with it, we'll just leave it the way it is. The residents across on Cheshire Road own half of that ditch. But they can't do anything with it on the other side of the ditch. Legally, they don't own it. Okay? Also, to make it a long story short, is to have a bunch of two-story retirement homes doesn't make any sense for somebody who's 75 years old and wants a ranch. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Porter. Right, is there anyone else in the second row? Right, front row. Come on up.
I have been sworn in. My name is Gail Jameson. I live at 816 Cheshire Road. We purchased our lot over 30 years ago and built our house. We knew the road was going to go in front of our house, the way we placed our house, to the field behind us. It was all supposed to be the Willow Wick subdivision. They were going to be single-family homes. Since we have lived there since the development, we had the knowledge of the development. So we planted pine trees where we didn't have to look at a road. Behind our house, we planted pine trees and lilac bushes, so we didn't have to see what was behind us, thinking it was going to be single-family homes. So some of the other people that live on Cheshire Road don't have that privilege. They've moved in, ownership has changed. A lot of them on Cheshire Road have told you about what happens behind their home, but there's only one more home in the city limits past our home that past that, they're county homes. So we see from our home, when we do get those heavy rainfalls, our house is not affected so much because our elevation is higher and we have a hill, but we can see down the road towards Domigan Road, and a lot of those people lose a third to a half of their home, their backyards, when that heavy rain happens. And it does happen more than once or twice a year. Other people have spoken about the overload on the police and fires. The fire department is a volunteer fire department at the time. So I had also had a question about how many single family homes were scheduled to be in there. We're not sure when the R4 got changed, but we probably didn't get notification since we aren't contingent next to that property. So we can compare 197 properties versus what was scheduled to be in there as single family. I was able to read the square footage of the patio townhomes, but there wasn't any square footage, or patio homes, but there wasn't any square footage listed for the townhomes. So that was a question I have. The townhomes are set to be for sale townhomes, but my question is, can they later be changed to rentals? If they aren't being sold, does the developer have the right to turn them into rentals? So those are just some questions I have. And then also one of the 4 items that have to be there before the building can start. The first item was a major road connection. So I just wanted to know if any building can take place before Sunbury Parkway comes into play. So that was the questions I had. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else in the front row? All right. Last call. Anyone else? Certainly. Yes, please.
This is Susan Stanton, 240 Dominican Road. And yes, I was sworn in before. This is to clarify the 100-year floodplain. We moved onto our property in 1995. At that point, all of our property was in a 100-year floodplain. What that means is you can expect one time in 100 years that you will have some water on your property. We have had significant flooding from the developments that have gone on since probably 2000, to the point where the last couple of rains with the 4.5 inches, the creeks that run through our property have flooded the majority, like 4 feet, 5 feet deep over their boundaries. So I just want to point that out. This is going to be coming from that direction to head into Little Walnut Creek that will then head into Hoover. And that's the concern about the permeability, the non-permeable surfaces. Okay.
Thank you. You're welcome. Anyone else? Right. We're at 8 o'clock. Mr. Lobig, Mr. Smith, would anybody like to respond at this point to any of the questions or comments?
I appreciate that. No, actually, I'm sure that the commission has a lot of questions too. So there's a lot of this that I think is going to be discussed through the course of those questions. There was a couple of questions though I did want to address just for everybody's benefit, because I think that several people had kind of the same question. The square footage and the value. I think those things are important. So the single family, just so everybody knows, is a ranch product. It's not 2-story. Those are geared towards empty nesters. They will essentially be a ranch product with 2 bedrooms, 2 baths. So it's going to be a nice master bedroom and a guest bedroom. So those aren't designed to carry kids. Those are going to be designed for retired folks. Small backyards, no play sets allowed in the backyard, no play furniture or any of those things, no facilities for kids. Those are going to probably start at $350,000 and go up from there, depending on how they're optioned. And the smallest one will be approximately 1,650 square feet, and then they'll go up to approximately 2,000 square feet for a ranch. So fairly sizable for a ranch product. Again, they don't have that second story. The townhomes will be 2-story. Those are geared more towards younger professionals who maybe not necessarily looking for a single family house at the time. Maybe they don't have kids. They want a place to live. And those are going to be, they'll probably start around $325,000 and they'll go up from there depending on how their option as well. And they'll range, I think, from 1,800 square feet to 2,200 square feet for the townhomes. But again, really no facilities in there for kids, no playgrounds, no play equipment, those kind of things. So out of either of those 2 products, we don't see a lot of kids, especially the empty nester, patio home products. Almost no children in the school district. The townhome, potentially you could see that, but it isn't anywhere like a single family home where, if you had a family, that's where you would go. So those are the only 2 things I wanted to address at that point. I just kind of wanted to leave it open to the commission. I know we got a lot of other things that we want to talk about, and we can kind of go through some of this as we discuss.
Right. Commissioner, I think it's time for comments or questions for the applicant. Anybody from the commission?
I got a quick question. Vic might have to answer this one. Sorry. Somebody had asked the question about the townhomes being sold as owned homes. Could those possibly be changed to rentals?
I would need to do specific research as to that to answer that. And I'm definitely made a note of that. I believe it's something we could put in the development plan as a restriction, but in terms of the enforceability of that, I definitely want to research that. I will do that. We'll get an answer back.
Thanks, Vic.
Yeah.
Just add that we're open to exploring that as well. I think anything we do, obviously, legal counsel's got to look at it and say, yeah, this is enforceable. I'm not an attorney, so I'm not really familiar with fair housing laws and whatnot. So if there's something that we can include in the deed restriction that, that restricts, all or percentage of these from being rented in the future, we're certainly open to have that discussion.
As far as the open space goes, on the southern property, there was a thin strip down through there. Could you give me an idea how wide that would be?
50 feet.
50 feet, okay. And then on the eastern edge, you have a 0.19 acre and a 0.05 acre open space. So from my standpoint, the southern edge open space and the eastern edge open space is a huge waste of open space. And if you could condense that somewhere else and make that actually usable open space, I'd love to see that. Can you give me an idea of how big the pavilion is you're proposing to put in the open space?
Yeah, I think what we showed you for pavilions is 20 by 20. And to kind of comment on the open space, I think your comments are well taken. We need to go back and kind of recalculate how the open space is kind of defined for us, how much we can do that. Some of those areas aren't intended, obviously, to be usable open space because some of it's buffer. They're only defined as open space from the standpoint that they're going to be owned by a homeowners association. They're common space, especially like the areas, the two small areas that you mentioned, the triangles. Those are where the entry features sit. So they're not really open space, as in like recreational open space. They're just part of the common area that's going to be owned by the homeowners association. So we'll update those calculations and recalculate it based on what's usable open space and then what's just common.
As far as the setbacks go, I'm not a big fan of altering the setbacks on any side personally, especially the 5-foot side yard setback and then allowing cantilever. You drive through, it's a common bit over here, and I don't even know if you can get a riding mower through between some of the houses in there. And I'm not a fireman, but I would not want to be in their shoes if they ever needed to access the back of the property because it would be impossible. And then as far as the rear setback goes, to me, once you get out to Cheshire, you're getting more out into country. And to squeeze up people who've been there for 30, 50 years, I think we need to really look at that rear yard setback again also. That's all I have for now.
Thank you, Joe. Deborah?
I'll be interested when you submit the HOA declarations to see how the maintenance differs between the townhomes and the patios. Because I know you said the patio homes, you will take care of the mowing and all that kind of stuff, but kind of see the same thing for the townhomes or what the difference is?
They'll both be the same.
Okay.
They're going to be maintained basically community-wide. Typically, both of those products will have an association that just mows only on it. So the owner of the townhome and the owner of the patio home may have some directly adjacent garden space, but outside of that, they're not going to be responsible for anything.
And the same restrictions for the sheds and all that will be the same for both areas?
That's correct. No sheds in the patio home areas. No fences will only be limited to directly around the patio or deck. But obviously, fence around the property would then limit the maintenance company's ability to kind of mow all of those yards. So no perimeter fencing. Again, no play equipment. Essentially nothing really out in the backyard.
Okay. On the side setback, I also am not in favor of the 5-foot setback. And Common Bent was one of the ones explained. And we had a Patio Homes over on 71 that we wouldn't allow them to do the 5-foot setback just a few months ago.
I was part of that.
Yeah, that was not allowed. The Common Bent does have problems because of that small area. Sun doesn't ever get in there, mud and things like that. So I'm not in favor of the 5-foot. I don't have a specific number, but I know 5 foot is just too small.
Okay.
The other thing was the architecture look of all the garages. I'd be interested in seeing something that is a little different instead of the 4 garage doors all right beside each other.
Yeah. The townhome product's kind of a challenge because, the way they're designed essentially is having 2 stories and kind of put together the way they are. If you want a 2-car garage, it does take up a lot of the frontage. And having something that rear parks is really difficult because now you're introducing alleys. Alleys introduce a considerable amount of cost. And, home buyers right now are already squeezed that on, what they can afford. It also increases, it's twice the amount of payment that they have to pay to maintain out of the homeowner association. So we'll take a look at the architecture. I'm not sure how much different we can make it, because again, if you want to have a 2-car garage, maybe there's some different ways to handle the architecture that minimizes that, but we'll have to take it.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Cooper, any questions?
Have you considered a 1-car garage?
We could. I mean, it really comes down to kind of a buyer preference issue. And what we'd really like to see is, some 2-car garages are generally considered nicer. They're more valuable. They hold their value better. Generally, you only see 1-car garage in kind of like the cheaper townhomes. So we were kind of thinking that that's probably not what the city wanted here. But we could see if, there's a product out there that fits that.
I'd like to see a larger lot size. I'd like to see a larger front setback, side setback, rear setback.
Anything in particular?
Well, I agree that that was my first thought too, that the 5 foot, we just said no, so we're not gonna say no. We're not gonna say yes now. Then I agree with Mr. Gokenhauer with the rear setback and the farmland. And I agree with Mr. Hall with the front setback, wasn't Mr. Hall, was one of the residents about Mr. Hall said increasing it a little bit, right, because of the larger vehicles. So I agree with
20 to 25 foot to make sure it fits larger vehicles. Cool. Thank you. Swearians, any questions, comments?
We've heard a lot about the drainage ditch. Are you prepared to talk any about that at all and what your contribution to a solution might be?
I'm gonna let the engineer.
Okay.
Justin Wallenberg with Terrain Evolution, address at 740 East Broad Street, Columbus, Ohio. I did swear. Okay. The drainage ditch, so our plan for the drainage for the site is to collect all the water that would have normally she put right into that ditch and manage it through the stormwater retention pond that's on the west side of the site.
Yeah, I saw that.
And that does still discharge back into that ditch, but we will retain that water and discharge it at a lower rate per the city's standard.
Right. Now, half of it, would you agree that half of that drainage ditch belongs to the development now? There were comments about cleaning it up, about.
I don't think we're opposed to cleaning it up if there's trash and things like that. There's limits on what we can do as far as, impacting the ditch itself. It has been by our environmental consultant deemed a stream. So there's limits based on the core as to what we can do that would be considered impacts to that.
Okay.
One of those things being an impact would be, widening it. There's things that the city can do if it's, under maintenance, or the county can do as far as maintenance concerns. But as far as a developer, there's things that we're limited on what we can do there. The best thing we can do to help with flow through that is to collect the stormwater that normally would go to it undetained and detain that and release it at a more controlled manner.
I understand about water control. I understand. I saw the basin and I know that the water from your property is not going predominantly into that ditch. It's going into your catch basin. Mm-hmm. However, the overgrowth in that ditch causes restrictions
Mhm.
in flow there. And I know that residents that have backed up against Prairie Run down here have been requested to clean up that area some. Now, I know that some of that is owned by the city, but I was just wondering about your comments, and I would encourage you to look in further to see what you can do to help with that.
Well, I think removing log jams, things of that nature, some vegetation and that sort of thing, that is permissible.
Right.
So those are things that,
Those are things you can do.
we can do. And
Okay.
when that property is owned and maintained by the HOA, those are things that can be ongoing maintenance.
Yeah, I would encourage you to state that and give us some details on what you think you can do to help with that.
Okay. I think we can do that.
Just on the ditch really quick, I know there's an email chain. Mr. Musgrove reached out to the county engineer, who then circled some information back to us. We are going to look into that with the county. We're not ignorant to the fact that there's an issue back there. It's some folks made reference to it earlier. The imaginary lines of properties and who owns what and who's responsible for what are probably taking the longest time for us to figure out how to do the right thing. And we'll work with the developer throughout that process as well, as long as they continue to come back. Sound good?
Thanks.
Any other comments, Joe?
No, that's all for me. Thanks.
I'll try to not duplicate everything. I think great feedback. Wes, thanks a lot for all of your feedback. 5-foot setbacks, I think that's a big one for me. The lot proximity to future Sunbury Parkway, especially lots, I think it's 49 and 50. I'd probably do, pardon me?
On the patio?
Yeah, the patio homes, it'd be the northwest ingress egress onto Sunbury Parkway. It may benefit you to add a landscape feature or something coming in there and remove those two lots. It seemed tight if you think of getting off a 4-lane highway and you're trying to turn right into a neighborhood. It seemed like a pretty significant right turn there. I heard the impact on ditches, streams. We're going to make sure that this is done where there's a positive benefit from this, that less water is coming into that stream. If this progresses, impact on, I'll just say services in general, but the 3 big ones were police, fire, and schools. We'll make sure to work with you on quantifying that and how we're addressing that as well. And I'm also very interested in reading the condo/townhome association documents. Thank you for answering that question, that they'll both be grouped into one. I did have one specific question related to fences. I imagine the townhomes, from what I could tell on the rear, had either like a patio or a deck or something. Are you saying that townhomes are able to have fences, around the whole building? I didn't know how that would work.
Not usually around the whole building. If there's a fence, usually, so the patios come off, usually the patios are kind of either side by side. So you have a little fence that creates a T, to create some separation between those patios. So you would have a little piece of patio, a little piece of privacy fence between the patios and maybe on the back side.
Okay.
So it wouldn't go all the way around the townhomes. It would just kind of.
Okay. And then the last thing, I think it was hit on in Wes's report as well, just the rear elevations of the townhomes. I hate to say I want the front to look like the back, but you don't want the back of the building, in what's going to be a future main street corridor to look like the back of the building.
Yeah. I think we can comment. I think we can take a look at the rear elevations of those and have some conversations about that. I think some of that we accomplished in mounting and landscaping, kind of along the back there. It would be different if if the parkway was in, or it's going to be in 2 years, we could plan for those front parkway, and it would be maybe a little bit different, but just not knowing that, I think we have to kind of plan on just screening that pretty well, letting the parkway be the parkway, and trying to get that as presentable as we can.
Okay, and maybe our communication over the next 30 days, we can get some examples of the rear elevation.
Yeah, okay. I think we can work on that.
Okay, Great. All right, that finishes my comments. Anything else from the commission?
A couple more.
Okay.
I applaud the fact that you want to do patio homes that are single story. Looking through some of your illustrations, some of them show a second floor window. Is that just attic space? Is that, or is that unfinished second floor?
No, usually, those patio homes are like built, so like a little loft. So if you wanted to have like a desk or a little office up there, you know, they have a loft that has that, a second story window. But they're not usually sized for a bedroom. They don't have any bathroom facilities on the second floor. So they're more designed for like small offices or something like that.
Okay. In your landscape plan, there is no type of mounding or screening along the back side, would be the south side of the development. Is there any plan to put any type of screening in there, or could that possibly be looked at?
Yeah, one of the things that we have to do, one of Wes's recommendations is that we survey those trees that are kind of along the ditch line. And so we need to kind of survey that to see what kind of existing material is there. And then we can kind of take a look at it, you know, how we augment that with additional landscaping.
And then lastly, the density, you're asking for almost double the density. It looks like, according to my math, I'm a proponent at this point to stick with the code as far as density and so forth goes.
Yeah, I think from a density standpoint, we got two different issues. We have what your comprehensive plan recommends, and then what the PRD allows. And I think the comprehensive plan, in terms of providing that transition in density between, you know, what's happening with Sunbury Parkway and the intensity, and, you know, the existing homes that's a pretty good planning document there. And I think what we're trying to do is look at kind of following recommendations of the comprehensive plan, going from that standpoint. I think if anybody anticipates this is going to be a lot single family subdivision up against a parkway that delivers, you know, 20, 30, 40,000 cars a day, that's probably not the plan. Yeah, I think what the comprehensive plan comprehends and recommends is probably the appropriate way, and that's what we've tried to accommodate here. So we can have some more conversation on the density, but I think if you're saying we need to stick to 2.5, then I don't think we're going to get there. It's just not feasible against that parkway.
Just to add on to that, I think I cannot remember who asked this question, but somebody wanted the calculation of what is their current zoning allow. I mean, they do have 2 approved zoning districts for the property they're in contract on, R4 and R2. Take the acreage, multiply it by the number of allowable units, and figure out, hey, if they don't go through this rezoning process and build what they're permitted to today on the property, how many units can they get? And then what's the plus or minus versus 197?
I can speak to that, Mayor, if you'd like. The R4 currently is zoned a maximum of 14 units per acre, 2-story apartment buildings in the current R4 piece of this development. So again, 14 units per acre, quite a bit more than 2.5 or 6 that we're talking about. That looks to be, and we'll confirm the areas, but that's about 20% of the site. The balance being currently R2 is zoned at about 3 units per acre. So both of the current zonings are more than the applicant's rezoning to a PRD is only 2.5, but the current zoning is the R2 again, which is the majority of the site, is at 3 units an acre, and the R4 is currently, if somebody want to build with that current zoning, is 14 units per acre. So it's zoned as a multifamily R4 on about 20% of the site. So we'll run through an exact area in the calculation, but that exceeds 200 units on current zoning approximately. So they're asking for a little bit less in there. So we need to consider the existing condition on the way the property's zoned, knowing that this is going to front Sunbury Parkway and come up with a logical density there that is gonna work economically for a developer, yet buffer that against the single family on Cheshire and have a product that works against a busy parkway. So that's our challenge.
Thanks, Wes. And I think that's one of the things that we were kind of looking at as well. I mean, do we really want to build kind of an R2 density all in the back and stack up some multi-story, and just build under the existing density and put apartments there? And that didn't seem like the appropriate response. I'm not sure that's something that even, when we went through this process at the beginning, and just some of our early conversations, it didn't seem like something that anybody was in favor of. Nobody really wanted apartments. And so we were trying to find kind of a good compromise between just building what we have zoned and trying to do something that's a little bit better, considering we have a parkway coming in, trying to provide some transition between that and the existing residences. And so that's kind of where we were at. We felt like it's a little bit better solution than just kind of building under the existing zone.
Thanks, Wes. Not the answer I was looking for. Thank you. Anything else? Anything else? Right. Okay, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
I move to close the public hearing.
Got a second by Mrs. Miller. Discussion. Roll call.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
St. John,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence,
Yes.
and Mr. Okino.
Yes.
All right, public hearing is closed.
Could I request a minute? I've got a camera problem,
Sure.
and I want to see if I can just, if it.
Do we want to take a 5-minute
Yes.
recess? I've got a water drinking problem.
Same.
Works for me.
All right, do we want to pause the camera?
Yeah.
Reconvene in, let's say, 7.5 minutes? Sorry.
Yeah, what do you do?
Yeah, so much better than.
I still want to ask whether they're pregnant.
All right, everyone, we're going to go ahead and get restarted. Thank you. Sure. All right, we are on to the commission review and discussion. Randy Lobig, rezoning. And if you're still talking, if you want to stand out in the hallway, feel free to do that. Or you can grab a seat if you'd like. All right. We're on to the commission review and discussion. I'm not going to go through this whole entire read here because it's basically a redo of the public hearing intro. And just go back to Gary Smith. Is there anything else you'd like to cover?
No, I think we got a lot of feedback tonight. We're ready to take that back. Steve, can you tell me how soon we would need to have materials back to you or provide materials to get on the next agenda?
There's the second page of my agenda, where we are at.
Do you need it 20 days in advance?
Yeah.
So it's 21st.
22nd, okay. So.
By next Tuesday.
So, I mean, it seems like we're probably gonna have to table until the following meeting. I guess gives time to address some of this. I would like to see if we could get a meeting, maybe meeting Wes there. Kind of just go through some of the comments, make sure, some of it's just formality, I just want to make sure that we understand. And so that we can kind of get started on that, we could do that at like one of the regular morning meetings next week or something, but it'd be good if we could kind of sit down and go through all this and so we can create a plan and get to these things.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. We can compare notes. I know I've got some affinity groupings of comments and yeah, we can share that before our sit down meeting as well, just to make sure we're heading in the right direction. And then, so I think what I'm hearing you say is sometime over the next week or so, we'd meet in a smaller setting, talk through any path forward and get you back here for the September meeting, potentially.
Yeah, I think that's right. I don't think we're gonna have enough time to make changes for the August meeting.
Okay.
And I don't want to waste anybody's time by trying to get on the agenda and then having to come table a meeting.
Okay. Steve, Wes, Vic, does that sound okay?
Sounds fine. I think we should do a motion in a second to table it with the approval of the applicant, just since we're gonna be right at that 60-day window.
All right. Do we, before we do we have opportunity for any other comment right now?
Absolutely.
Sure. Okay. I just wanted to make sure the commission, if you did have any additional comments.
I just wanted to say that I appreciate that you are trying to work with the city and that you're visioning the future. I can see that. I appreciate that. I also can see and appreciate that you're not trying to overload our schools. I just wanted to make that clear that I'm recognizing that and I appreciate that.
Again, I love both your products. I love the fact that they're not apartments. I love the fact that they're owner owned. I love the fact that you're putting all ranches in because Sunbury desperately need ranch homes, especially for 55 and older. And I think you're targeting a great market there and it will sell out quickly, I'm sure. But I would love to see less density and less variances. And I think you can achieve both by doing less variances. That's all I have.
Good feedback. Anything else, John?
Yeah, the number of divergences are concerning to me too. So same thing. Yeah. Thanks.
I wanted to say I did like the product type and mix. I felt like to your point of planning standpoint, if you think, larger lots on the south side of Cheshire Road, somewhat like 5-acre lots, then you get into about acre lots, and then a little bit smaller and a little bit more dense as you get up near the future Sunbury Parkway 36, 37. I mean, that is kind of sound planning. I've seen other neighborhoods like that. It does flow well. One thing I think is when we are trying to get so many units in there, some of the things that are being omitted are sidewalks on both sides of the street. We'll leave it there. for now. But overall, I mean, I felt like, this isn't a rental product. This is a higher end product. I think the price tags are outside of my price range.
I'm looking forward to kind of the conversations coming up. The challenge for us, I think, on the diversion side is your code right now is written basically around large lots. I mean, that's kind of the way that's written. And patio homes and nested homes, those are all, they only sell on smaller lots. So you don't see an 80-foot, 12,000 square foot patio home lot. It just doesn't exist in the marketplace. And so it's going to be hard for us to keep that product and not have some divergences. But what we could do is maybe impact what we're asking for in some of those divergences. So just like we did in the last application on the other side of the freeway, maybe it's still a diversion for side yard, but it's not 5 feet. It's something else. Maybe we can widen the lots a little bit, but we're still going to need probably some divergences. So I'm looking forward to kind of having that conversation with seeing what's possible to get that kind of product. In a way that the buyers prefers it, but still have some of the cities.
Sounds good. All right, any other feedback from the commission? All right, I'd like to make a motion to table.
Second.
Second by Joe Gokenauer. Discussion. Roll call.
Catching up to. Mrs. Cooper.
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence.
Yes.
Mr. Gokenhour.
Yes.
Mrs. Miller.
Yes.
Mayor St. John.
Yes. Right. I wanted to say thanks to Gary, Randy, Justin. Thanks for coming in tonight. Thank you for hearing our residents. Thank you for talking with them both before and during the meeting. You guys are some of the best, so we appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you.
See you soon. All right, we are on to visitor section. Any visitors out there who'd like to speak about planning and zoning? Right. We had a meeting last month. May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion.
Motion by Joe Gokenauer. Second by John Lawrence. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Lawrence.
Yes.
Mr. Gokenhour.
Yes.
Mrs. Miller.
Yes.
Mayor St. John.
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper.
Yes.
All right. Mr. Piles, would you like to review anything or highlight anything from the zoning report?
No, it was provided in your physical packet and also online. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. Had a busy month, decks, HVACs, get into this temperature season, and unfortunately, cooling systems start to not keep up. So I had a number of HVACs. And again, I'll answer any questions you might have had as a result of my report.
Comments, questions? Okay, building permits still coming in? Yep. Okay. And the Morpsey meeting feedback, we're on track to get some deliverable from them later this month.
Yes.
Or August, excuse me.
In August, for sure, yes. I think we have our every other week meeting this week on Thursday online. And I believe based upon the Gantt chart that they had, it was an end of the month deliverable report.
Thank you very much. All right, discussion, new business or old business? Mr. Lance, anything?
Can you remind me where Rolling Hills is?
Rolling Hills is the old golf course, Sunbury Golf Course.
Okay, thank you.
Other new unfinished business? All right, Mrs. Cooper? All right, Mr. Miller? Mr. Gokenauer? I do not have any new or unfinished business. Next meeting is August 22nd. That is 2 days after Sizzle and Sound and 1 day after the cleanup that I appreciate everybody volunteering for. Thank you, Mr. Gokenauer, for leading that charge.
I'll be there.
The first full day of school. It's the first full day of school, after the staggered start, it's the first full day of
Oh,
school.
yeah, it is. Oof. Wow. That is,
Let's enjoy our summer in the
Yes.
next week or two.
yes. All right. We're on to adjournment.
So moved. Second.
Second, Mrs. Cooper. First, Joe Gokenhour. Discussion.
And move all the way around to Mr. Okenauer.
Yes.
Mrs. Miller? Mayor St. John?
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence?
Yes.
5 ayes. You are adjourned at 8:39.
That is really good considering West